أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ففهمنا سليمان وكلنا آتينا حكما وعلما رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم سبحانك اللهم وحنانيك أنا لا تنسني ولا تنسني الحمد لله أفضل الحمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وسائر النبيين والصالحين وسلم اللهم وفقني واهدني وسددني واجمع لي بين الصواب والثواب وعذني من الخطأ والهرمان آمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another episode of Q&A, questions and answers. I hope that yesterday served many of your purposes in the queries and questions that you had. We were quite successful in getting through quite a lot of questions yesterday with some brief answers and in some places some detailed answers as the question merited. We had a couple of phone calls as well. We didn't have our phone call from our brother in Peterborough, so I hope he's watching today and he calls us in, inshallah. For him and for the others, I'm sure he's got the number memorized by now, but for the others, it's Bradford 01274 214 299. That's Bradford 01274 214 299. So please, as I always say, get your calls in early. It does take some time for the caller to explain their question, give all the surrounding details, and then obviously allows me some time then to respond. So don't leave it too late because, as I always say, you'll be entering into close to the interval and then you may not get a chance for a detailed response. Whilst we wait for the calls to come in, 01274 214 299, I'm going to pick up some questions which I have received subsequent to yesterday on our Istiftah, our Dar al-Ifta platforms. We have, as I said, both a ladies group and a gentleman's group. So let's deal with the question here first. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. Ayurvedic. That's a word that I never came across before. Spelled Ayurvedic, medicine. Okay, so I had to search that because I had a foggiest what that was. And what did I get? There you go. So here we are. So this is what we got. Ayurveda is a traditional Indian system of medicine. It aims to preserve health and wellness by keeping the mind, body and spirit in balance and preventing disease rather than treating it. To do so, it employs a holistic approach that combines diet, exercise and lifestyle changes. So as defined there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with it. Clearly, we would also prefer that a person took preventative measures rather than contracting a disease and trying to deal with it. So the Sharia also advocates healthy lifestyle. The Sharia also advocates a balanced diet. The Sharia also advocates a controlled diet, meaning that a person should never eat to their full, that they should eat sufficiently where they still got a little bit of hunger left, that they still feel like they could eat more. And that's when they should stop. Hadith is quite clear when it mentions a third water, a third food, and a third left for air. Meaning so that at least you're still comfort. What it means by air is for those of us who knock on a little bit, and when we try to go to sleep, we start suffering from heart, goodness me, I forgot the phrase now. What's the word? You know, when you get a burning heart sensation, what's that word? Anyway, it'll come to me. Heartburn, it must be heartburn, yeah, cool. I said it's something which is called a burning sensation in the heart. Heartburn, that's what it's called. So heartburn, and also where you get acid reflux. And the reason why you get acid reflux and heartburn is because there's not enough space in the stomach for the digestion process. So as the food is being digested, then the acid, which is obviously inside your stomach, which is breaking down the food, is now kind of bubbling right to the top. And therefore, some of it escapes, the air escapes, or the breakdown, the gaseous matter escapes. And that obviously gives you kind of heartburn as a result of it. The acid reflux is quite simple because unfortunately, because you've got too much food and the body's trying to digest it and you've not gone for a good walk or something, and therefore, you know, you've gone to sleep on a full stomach, then what happens is that starts to bubble up. So you'll be fast asleep and suddenly you get a burning sensation in your throat. and then literally in your mouth, and you'll wake up and you'll feel as though you've been vomiting, and it's a very uncomfortable position to be in. Once you start working out and controlling your diet and lifestyle, it's a massive improvement. So there doesn't seem to be anything problematic with this. So let's carry on with the question. It then says, Ayurvedic, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but I guess I'm going to pronounce it. Medicine suggests that sitting in moonlight for some time daily or drinking moonlight charged water, right, can help regulate the menstrual cycle. Is this type of treatment permissible? Well, first I've ever heard of it. I've never heard of anything like this. So let me respond back to the lady there. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The Sharia itself advocates also a healthy lifestyle, a balanced diet, a controlled diet, not to eat excessively, and also to take preventative measures rather than reactionary treatments after you've already contracted the disease. I've looked into what Ayurvedic medicines are. It discusses that it's based on an Indian tradition in which it's looking at keeping a balance in person's lifestyle, diet, and exercise. So generally speaking, there doesn't seem to be any problems with that. With this thing about sitting in the moonlight, now, I've never seen any data nor any expert within medicine to suggest that that would prove anything health. Now, we know we get vitamin D from sunlight. Well, the moon is just reflecting sunlight. So it is a diluted form of sunlight. So I can't see how that would work. In fact, sitting too much in sunlight is problematic because it can also be cancerous. You can contract skin cancer because of the rays which the sun sends. Even though we have a good system of filtration through our various spheres which exist, the stratospheres and all the other spheres which exist above the earth, they do a good job in filtering out a lot of the harmful rays, but there's still rays that get through. And again, if you don't put the adequate sun protection, also it can be a problem. So I've never come across anything that suggests sitting in the moonlight will improve your health. So that's the first. Secondly, moonlight charged water. I've never heard of that. How can moonlight charge water? And what does it mean by charging water? It's already ionic. So in what way is it charging the water? So I think this just sounds like piffle-paffle to me. Not really science, not really medicine. So I cannot see how it can help regulate a person's menstrual cycle at all. So therefore, whether this treatment is permissible or not, whether this is considered as a treatment, first of all. So, unless you can provide data to prove that this actually works, I think this is just wasting someone's time. So I hope that dealt with that particular question in a frank and a direct way. We read a lot of this stuff. We go online and we read stuff, don't we? We get told, we're always looking for a magic pill to solve our problems, when really the essence of our problems are due to the few things that I mentioned: your lifestyle, your diet, and exercise. It's mainly on those three things. If you can sort your lifestyle, diet, and exercise out, alhamdulillah, no matter how old you get, whether you get to your 50s or 60s, you'll still be able to maintain a good, healthy life, an independent, good, healthy life. So you won't need to resort to things like that which have got no precedence, never been documented, or no real research has been carried out to demonstrate that that would work. And it doesn't mention, how long do you sit in the moon for? And, the moon light changes day by day, meaning there's less moonlight on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th of the month compared to, say, the 13th, 14th, and 15th of the month, where you have a full moon. And then similarly, the 22nd, 23rd, 24th is considerably less. So what moonlight do you sit under? The full moon, the not so full moon, and then if it's a half moon, do you need to sit for twice as long as you would if it's a full moon? It just doesn't. It just doesn't sound right. And then how does moonlight charge water? How can that even be possible? It just doesn't, like I said, it doesn't make sense. So, we have to be wary that just because we see something doesn't mean that we should go out and act upon it. Okay, here's the next question. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A brother in a university says that it's common for students to engage in a Muslim dating app. He gives an example of a Muslim dating app. No point mentioning it. What is the ruling of such apps and matchmaking WhatsApp groups? Secondly, how can one differentiate between permissible and non-permissible matchmaking services? Okay. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. There is a need for bringing together Muslim men and Muslim women eventually to get into wedlock and marriage. We still have the traditional means, the auntie or the woman who gets all people kind of married off, this sort of standard approaches, but they tend not to be used as often now. So we do need some means for people to find each other to marry. Now, obviously, the Sharia forbids contact between couples or between people that are ghair mahram before they're married. Once they're married, obviously, then it's halal. But previous to marriage, courting, going out, dating, mixing and all that, Sharia frowns upon that and it forbids that. So therefore, how can you do these kind of, WhatsApp groups or whatever? Now, I've been asked many times to set something like this up, and either I have intentionally avoided it, or B, the opportunity has not arisen. So for the last 20 or so years, I've helped one or two people set something like this up. I've just given them advice, but not been directly involved. I've just set it up and then walked away. But again, as I said, I've been called and asked many times to do something like this, but I require probably, I've not really sat down, probably require plenty of volunteers, and need a system in place. But that by the side. So I can see why people would want something like this. And I do appreciate that there is a need for something like this. So it must be done in a Sharia compliant way. So if it can be done in a Sharia compliant way, where the two aren't meeting until guardians are involved, until parents are involved, then there is a way around it. But if we're doing it very much like, I don't know what those apps are, but you get now dating apps, don't you, where, particularly non-Muslims use them. Muslims use them as well, where you can pick, I think you swipe to the left or swipe to the right or something like that. Someone was mentioning something to me, and where you can pick somebody who you can go out on a date with or whatever. If our relationship apps are becoming like that, then that is seriously problematic, because the way we can meet and the way we marry is considerably different than the way a non-Muslim couple meet and marry. That's, as I mentioned to you before, about the identity of a Muslim is distinctively different. Everything about us is distinctively different, and it's supposed to be. And that's because we are working towards the hereafter, and those people who don't believe in a hereafter clearly aren't working towards the hereafter. So when you have two separate philosophies, when you have two separate ways of life, how can the methodologies be the same? They cannot be. The methodologies are different. We may eat chicken, we may eat meat, but the method that we get the chicken and meat in, the processes that we put the animals through, is very different than, say, that person who does not believe in a hereafter, who does not believe in the injunctions of God or the injunction of Allah. So yes, there is a need, yes, there is a requirement, but the manner in which it must be done such that the parties are separate, that the wali is involved, and details, private details, as in pictures and contact details, are only shared once the guardians get involved and they then give permission to step forward. So if it's anything like that, then it's correct. If it's not like that, as I've already explained, then it is problematic. So next question, and please use, we still got time before we take a short break for you to call in. If you're going to call in now is a good time. 01274 214 299. That's Bradford. 01274 214 299. We will be in a few minutes going for a short break, so then you will miss out on that opportunity. Then we'll only have the second interval to take that call. Okay, if someone has to do ghusl and they had major impurity on their private parts, and they washed all of their body first and then afterwards washed the private part last, then would the ghusl be valid? Okay. So that's an interesting question. Okay, we're normally taught that you should remove najasat first. So the first thing one should do is move najasat. Once the najasat has been removed, then they should make the rest of the ghusl. What this chap is asking, that if someone was to do the ghusl and they left the major impurity on their private parts, and they washed all of their body parts first and then washed the private parts, last, would the ghusl be valid? Okay, so let's respond to that. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The main aim for ghusl is to cleanse oneself of physical impurity and then also ritual impurity. We always proceed by removing the physical impurity first. That is something that we can visually see, and that is usually found around the private parts. So we remove that first. Once that is removed, we perform ghusl. in your question, what you are saying or what you are asking is that if the ghusl has been performed and then you move the najasat, will the ghusl be valid? The only issue with that is when you're removing filth from your private parts, then naturally that is going to run down your legs. So you'd have to re-wash your legs, okay? Because otherwise you're going to it's not going to wash upwards. So as long as it's going down, then you would probably wash from waist down again or from belly button down again, for fear that the water may have splashed up, some of that najasat may have reached up. So, and then you would, so in essence, yes, the ghusl would be valid. However, because you have removed the najasat at the end, you could have splashes of the najasat now on your stomach. I know it's a bit far-fetched, but you could also have it on your arm and maybe even on your chest, because when this person is rubbing and removing filth, that water can splash anywhere. And likewise, you will obviously, without any doubt, have the najasat running down your legs and definitely on your feet. So in essence, you're doing ghusl all over again, because once you've done ghusl and you're now removing the najasat means that you're going to have to definitely wash from your navel down to your feet again, without any doubt. You have to do that, because you cannot guarantee the najasat has not reached that. And as a result of splashing, there's a good chance the najasat is on your torso and maybe even on your arms, so you would have to remove that as well. Hence what the Sharia does, it advises us that we should remove the najasat first. Why? Because then you eliminate the source of the filth. Once you've eliminated the source of the filth, now you are quietly confident that when you do your ritual act of worship, which is not the physical impurity removal, but the ritual impurity removal, then you are content that you are both physically clean from the outside and also from a ritualistic way. Hence the advice. Okay, last question we're going to take before we take a short interval. Okay, now, this is an interesting question. I don't know if this is a real question or this is a hypothetical question, because I've not come across this at all. The question says, is it permissible for a masjid to permanently ban Muslims whom are not vaccinated from entering their masjid? Okay. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm noticing many of these questions which are coming in aren't necessarily coming in with salam. So we should always greet a person first when we ask the question, and then it's etiquette to even ask how the scholar is, and then go to the question. We're asking questions with little adab or etiquettes there. So is it permissible for a masjid to permanently ban Muslims who are not vaccinated from entering the masjid? Let me make this general first. Can a person be prevented from entering the masjid, generally speaking? Well, yes, there are times and occasions where a person can be prevented from entering the masjid. If a person is known to be a thief, if the person is going to go commit murder, if the person is going to cause harm, if the person has caused damage in the masjid previously. Could he be banned permanently? I guess so. Because if he's been in the masjid and he's defiled the masjid, or he's thrown mushafs around, or he's smashed windows or whatever, then the masjid might put a permanent ban on him, because they cannot trust him and they do not have the security nor the people to go around walking with him to see where he goes. So generally speaking, yes, I guess there is a possibility where somebody could be banned from coming into the masjid. Would the fact that this person isn't vaccinated be a good enough reason? I would say no. I would say that's not a good enough reason to stop somebody coming into the masjid just because they haven't taken the vaccine, okay? Because we can take preventative measures in order to stop the spread of the disease, which we're currently doing. And eventually, as we know, we would reach something as we refer to as herd immunity, which would mean even those people who aren't vaccinated will have a reduced, if not in basically a non-active impact on that. So I think before we start kind of, talking about masjids, what we need to do, and we get a lot of this, is go to the masjid if this is a real situation and let the masjid contact a scholar. Unfortunately, we live in a society of calling out things. So before anything's even happened, before we've done any research anywhere, we start calling people out, oh, that masjid won't do this, that's got, let's not go down that road. Okay, as I said, I've not come across any masjid that is now preventing people from entering their masjid. I do not know of any masjid that is doing that. So, and that would be down to the risk assessment that the masjid committee would make. That is their responsibility. And every masjid committee should be taking advice from scholars. That is, again, their responsibility. So I get a lot of, as I said, questions coming from muqtadis who got an axe to grind, or whoever with an organization, and then they want to get a fatwa from a mufti so they could use that as a stick against the people. We should avoid doing things of that nature. So that has been most of the questions, or we've tackled a few questions there. We still have 2 or 3 questions left that I can answer here from our panel. But again, I would like people to call in with their questions so we can deal with your queries as well. So please don't forget, the number to ring is 01274 214 299. Don't forget, 01274 214 299. So don't call now though. Wait a few minutes and call in. We're now going to take a short interval. We will see you back soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.